Well, Rod was a dear friend, and just because he pulled like crazy for the Auburn Tigers and I pulled like crazy for the Crimson Tide didn't mean that we couldn't be friends, and we were friends. We just talked last week, as a matter of fact. We were talking about some business items, and we kind of morphed into talking about our families and talking about a trip to Italy that he and Paula had scheduled coming up here shortly. So, just a wonderful, nice guy, a classy guy, and again, rooting interests notwithstanding, he and I were good friends.
And to be able to do that, in this state, you got a big rivalry. To be able to come together and be friends, you can talk about that aspect.
Well, I guess we're so close to our respective universities that there's no question who we pull for. But at the same time, we are able to, and thankfully so, we were able to separate rooting interest from real life, if you will. I mean, a situation like this with Rod passing away, this is bigger than any rivalry. I mean, this is real life. This is real life when your cohort and his wife get killed tragically. This has nothing to do with rivalries. This is real life, and thankfully Rod and I have been able to have that kind of friendship, and the same thing with the late Jim Fife before him and Gary Sanders before him. We've always been able to be friends, even though there was no question who we were pulling for on the field of play.
What will be your lasting memory of him?
My lasting memory is...
Your best memory, I'm sorry. I had to say your best memory, I'm sorry.
Well, it's funny, my best memory has really nothing to do with a ball game. It's just the kind of guy he was. We would sit in the press box before the Iron Bowl. We'd sit around, we'd shoot the breeze like two buddies. You're an hour and a half, 2 hours before the kickoff of the biggest game in the state. But we were talking about family. We were talking about children. We were talking about, this, that, and the other, whatever it might have been. That's the thing I remember. We were good friends, and we were able to escape the envelope of a sporting rivalry and just enjoy each other's company.
Okay, and Bart, tell me your recollection of Bart.
Well, Bart Starr, although I never had the pleasure of calling any of his action on the field, I met him so many times. He and Sherry don't live very far from right here. And just the classiest human being. The way he shared his life experience with people and tried to make their lives better. And of course, in this area, it wasn't unusual, still isn't unusual, for my wife and I to go to a particular barbecue place, a nice restaurant right here on Highway 31 in Hoover. And I can't tell you the number of times he would walk in and there would be Bart and Cherry Starr sitting in the booth over there, and he'd always wave, come on, you don't want to interrupt a guy while he's having dinner. He'd always wave, come on over, sit down. We'd tell stories. We would shoot the breeze. He was a Hall of Famer. He was a superstar. He was world-renowned, but he was just a wonderfully classy, nice guy, and that's the thing I'll always remember, let alone his on-the-field football prowess.
And do you have any good memories of him that was real close?
Well, obviously, watching him become MVP of the first 2 Super Bowls, watching him score behind that Jerry Kramer block in the Ice Bowl. Any football fan, any sports fan will likely have those images indelibly etched in his mind. But again, in addition to that, when somebody says, say something about Bart Starr, I'll say the classiest guy to walk the face of the earth, and that's probably the best way anybody could hope to be remembered.